right, we're rolling. I'm very pleased to sit here with Jessica Gould, who for episode number 8 of New York City Bike Culture. I am pleased here especially pleased because she's kind of a new member of the New York City cycling community. She's new-ish to New York City still. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
New-ish, like I am. And I just kind of first met and got introduced to Jessica maybe just a few weeks ago. And the reason why I really want to invite her is there's a couple of reasons. A, because you're new, and I really always want to feature people who are new too, because they have a very different perspective than the folks who have been in the community for 40 years or their whole life, and they have all the old stories, and these old stories, which I personally enjoy, but I also want to feature the perspective of the new people who might feel not overwhelmed necessarily, but who are looking around trying to figure out how cycling in the city works, if you're into bike racing, how that works. You see cyclists everywhere, but how do you hold on to a person and then become a part of the community? How does that happen, and how does it happen for you? And that's one element maybe of what we want to talk about. And then the other piece is you have started I'm just going to call it a project and I'll let you describe it. A project that is really basically getting more women into not just bike riding, but maybe also potentially bike racing, or just more riding at a more serious, I don't know what to call serious, but exploring what they want to do on the bike, and maybe with a look at performance or riding faster than they have been riding before, and maybe further than they have been riding before.
Yeah.
So that's enough for me for a second. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from geographically, culturally, and then how you end up here and how you ended up riding bikes in New York City.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be part of the series. I grew up in Seattle actually, and then I moved to New York for school about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came here, I started riding subways, etc. And then I decided, you know what, actually, riding a subway is pretty expensive if you think about it.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you're spending on the subway, and then also the amount of money that you're spending on every trip, or even if you get like a monthly pass. So as I started moving farther away from school, I decided to get a city bike membership.
Okay.
And that kind of opened me up to cycling in the city. And you know, those bikes are like indestructible.
Yes,
I
they
never
are.
felt like I was gonna fall or anything. So I felt totally safe for the most part. Biking around in Manhattan, at least, especially when the cars are a lot slower in Manhattan than they are in Brooklyn, for example. So I felt pretty safe riding in Manhattan. Eventually decided that after 3 years of city biking that I should just pay up and get my own bike.
Okay.
So I got my own bike, a tiny little single speed.
So this was just you weren't like externally motivated, or this was just like, okay, I've done this and it's time.
Yeah, frankly, yeah. I mean, it's funny that I decided to get on city bike because I thought it'd be cheaper, because now I'm cycling and cycling is so expensive. But you know.
I frequently discuss that with people, yes. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I then got a single speed bike that I bought from a local shop, and started riding that around, and it allowed me to go farther. So then I
Why did you
started
pick a single speed bike, and how did that go?
I just wanted something cheap again.
Okay, there was you need the cheapest option.
I just needed a basic bike.
You could get that for $200 or something like that. I don't know how much you paid for yours. Less than that. Wow, good, yeah.
I paid basically nothing for it, and then that allowed me to then ride like 40 miles, up to like 70 miles. I did. Oh my gosh, I started doing longer rides with some friends who also were riding on commuter bikes.
Okay.
And we would do like, you know, full day trips, riding around, and I thought this is really fun. It's really nice to see the city by bike. I feel like I can, you know, explore more of the city. I actually wrote a breakup letter to City Bike.
Okay.
Like a long breakup letter to City Bike, posted it on my Instagram.
I was gonna say, what was the platform? It was Instagram, yeah.
Introduced my new bike, my single
Oh, great,
bike,
okay,
saying, like,
yeah.
I've moved on to this new bike that allows me to get to these farther places. But then a friend and I, we did a ride up to, I'm gonna forget the name of the museum. Some museum up near, close to, oh my gosh, I forget the name of the museum.
We'll come back to you.
It's pretty far.
Yeah.
Pretty far. I think it was 72 miles for me that day.
Oh, so outside of New York City.
Yeah,
Okay, yes, yeah.
It was like all the way up. You go out past 9W all the way
upstate,
out.
okay,
Yep.
further up, yeah.
Yep, and that ride, it was very hilly, and I was doing it with my single speed. And I remember we were riding.
I was gonna say, like, you did all these rides on the single speed, which I just rode here on my commuter, which is single speed, but I stay within the city, and the biggest hill is the bridge, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
and maybe the park slope is like a little bit of a hill, but yeah.
It was a lot of quad strength, I will say. So I remember I was going up one of the hills early on in 9W, and there were these guys on the side of the road, and they were just watching me open mouth, like, what is she doing? What is she doing?
Yeah.
But it was really fun, and I decided after that, like, okay, I'm gonna get a bike with gears. I didn't commit myself to a road bike yet, but I thought, okay, I'll get a bike with gears. And I also thought I'd like to do some longer rides. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So I decided to try doing the AIDS Life Cycle Ride, which is a charity ride, totally supported from San Francisco to Los Angeles over 7 days, so 545 miles over 7 days. And for that, I asked a friend who was already riding it, like, oh, you know, do you think I can do it on my single speed? She's like, no, you definitely need a bike with gears. And then I said, okay, fine, I'll get a bike with gears. And then my friend said, you should just get a road bike. You should just actually invest in a road bike.
Okay.
And I'm like, those are racing bikes. I'm not gonna race. I'm just gonna ride around. I don't need that. And then, but she got one, so I was like, okay, fine, maybe I'll consider it. Found a cheap one on Craigslist. It's actually this one now.
Okay.
I got this one for like $7.50 off Craigslist.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Which is for those who care, it's a Cat 10. And that's where I leave it. I don't want to talk about all the components. I don't really care either myself. So, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And a friend of mine who formerly was a collegiate cyclist helped me get the bike, choose a bike, get clips, get clipped in.
So you had some mentors there, kind of like in some ways.
I definitely did. I don't think I would be here without having someone there to kind of show me how to get into, because it's a lot of, you know, I think one of the things about cycling is that there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of like, okay, you got to get all these different things. It's very intimidating. There's all these different things you have to buy. There's gear and equipment for every single type of cyclist, which is why it gets so intimidating as a new cyclist to try to figure out, do I need aluminum, carbon, like basic things like that. Everything from like kits, wearing kits that are way too loose, you know, all of that. I had to go through all of that too. Learning how to take care of your bike. There was at one point in the summer where I was riding, and every time I rode, I would get a flat.
That's scary. That's like the first hurdle, I think. If I feel like you're a proper cyclist and you can fix your own flat.
Definitely. I had to fix my flat so many times, but I eventually realized, my tire's worn out and I need to change my tire. You know,
same thing. Like I had a lot more flats when I started because I never had them inflated, and now I'm a big guy, and then I probably rode an old tire.
Way too high PSI.
Oh, too high.
People were like, your tires are rock hard. You're not that big. You need to get your TSI. You know, so. I think what I found is that there's so much to learn. Yes, you can do a lot of reading on the internet, but also it's just much easier to ride with people and then have them point things out to you and tell you, like, you should do this, you know, stop moving around so much on your bike, you know, things like that, or ride in a straight line, you know, these things that you wouldn't necessarily get to by riding on your own. So,
I think you really have to practice, otherwise you're not going to get there. I mean, even with like all these resources you have online now and YouTube channels and all that, that you got to get out there. But you did that. You really committed to that then.
Yeah. So I think there's kind of two sides to getting introduced to cycling. There's one side where there's so much to learn.
Which is overwhelming, right? Because like it can be off-putting too, I think.
Exactly. Hugely off-putting. And then there's the other side, which is that just have to get out there and just keep riding, and the more you ride, the better you'll get. So I think those are the two things that I kind of want to bring to the Ostroy Racing Development Team, which is the new team, because I want to make it more welcoming.
So this is what I call the project. It's the official working title, current title is maybe title forever, who knows, the
Ostroy Racing and Development.
Ostroy Racing and Development Team, which means you're working with Alex Ostroy, who's a figurehead, I think, in the New York scene as well. Has his own kind of clothing company and all that, but tell us more about that project. So let me maybe take one step back. So what's the timeline here? How many years are we talking that this is 2 years ago you started with your fixie, or not fixie, sorry, your single speed?
I bought my single speed in January 2019.
Okay.
I bought my road bike in October 2019. Today is October 2020.
Yeah, so this is a rapid timeline. Yes. And before that, you knew how to ride a bike, and that was about it. You had learned that, and then you'd ridden a bike, I'm assuming, as a child and as a teenager, maybe.
But like around my neighborhood.
Right, as the typical American experience, I would say, not necessarily as a utility vehicle, like to get places to like shop or to, I don't know, get around, and then you really So one more question, maybe. What was it? Was it seeing places? Was it the physical exercise? Was it going places with friends that you otherwise maybe couldn't explore?
Yeah.
What drew you to it? I guess was it the camaraderie or whatever it is?
I mean, I think that there's a difference often between the reason why you decide to do something and then the reason why you fall in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the reason that I got into riding a city bike, or at least using a commuter bike, was just subway is so expensive. I hate being down there. It's gross. It smells.
It's really hot in the summer.
Yeah, it's super hot in the summer. You just you don't feel like you have control over your time in a way because you're beholden to the subway schedule, delays in the subway. I also think that over the time that I was living in New York, the subway slowly became worse.
Okay.
In service.
Yeah.
So I thought, I should just get my own bike, and then I have control over my schedule a little bit.
Yeah.
And then getting my own bike meant that I wasn't beholden to the city bike. You're now parking 5 blocks away from where you actually need to go. You can park directly there. That was the initial draw, I think, and then over time it became, having the almost like a mental space where I can't use my phone. It's like it's just an opportunity to see the city, watch the neighborhoods unfold into each other, and really get to know the city a lot better. I think I know the city so much better having to ride the streets.
Oh, 100%. I think you get to know a city and more efficiently than when you can only walk so far, right, in a day, but you can bike through large parts of the city, and I think getting to know a city by bike is just still one of the best ways to do it. Because like you said, you develop a feel for the different neighborhoods and all that. So you said how you started too, then you rode around in Brooklyn or in Queens, or
so I live on the Lower East Side, so I just mostly, I rode a lot mostly in Brooklyn, I would say.
So you started here, Lower East Side?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would ride over to Brooklyn and cross a car just to fly. Sometimes do that Rockaways loop.
Which is a big loop. I was just talking with Sharon Bingle from Rockstar about that she went out there to go to the beach and all that and those kind of things.
Yeah, you do that nice long flat. It's very nice and flat. It's kind of just with that beautiful Verrazano Bridge and the sun and the water. It's really nice.
Yeah.
But it's funny, actually. I tore my ACL in February 2020.
Not on the bike, I would assume.
No, I was skiing.
Yeah. Classic ski injury. Okay.
So, but then that meant that I couldn't run, so I was forced to bike. Yeah. Only bike. And so after that, I started riding a lot more, and I would tell friends, they'd be like, "Oh, so how's Lower East Side doing in the pandemic?" And I'm like, I really don't know. I mean, I can't really walk, so I can't tell you anything within a mile radius of my house, but I can tell you about how Nyack is doing.
Yeah. Nice, quiet. Yeah. So ACL's good now?
Yeah. I got the surgery done in May, so now I'm probably 6-7 months out from surgery.
Good. Okay.
So I've been recovering. Biking has actually been a great thing for my recovery.
The doctor's happy with that?
Yeah, the doctor's very happy with that. I was like, I'm biking a lot. Do you think that's okay? And he's like, yes, keep doing it.
Okay.
It's always nice to hear. Nice to hear that little promotion from your doctor that it's okay.
Yes, absolutely. You wanted something positive. Yeah. So then let's talk about how you kind of became like a leader or whatever you want to say all of a sudden of, I don't even know how many women you have right now that you
we have 55 right now. And there's still some women who have been writing it, so it's slower now than it was in the first couple of weeks. But we're now about 5 weeks into the Ostroy Racing Development Team being a thing.
And that started how?
So I basically, I was riding around in the Palisades. I met this...
Which is, for those not familiar, on the west side of the Hudson. You kind of go across the George Washington Bridge all the way up north, north in Manhattan, and then go up north, and you were somewhere along 9W or on the River Road there. Good.
Yeah, and then I was pacing next to a woman who also was riding out there that day, and then she started talking to me and saying like, oh, I think it'd be cool to get more women on bikes. And I was like, yeah, I never see any women on bikes. I'm just always riding alone out here.
Okay.
And she said, well, we should stay in touch. So I said, sure.
Oh, great.
And then a couple of weeks later, she said, hey, I met this guy, Alex Ostroy. you know, he's starting a racing team, maybe you'd like to join? And I said, sure, that sounds great. So I show up. She doesn't even show for the ride with Alex. So I'm there. I'm the only woman besides Rose from Veselka. Plus Alex's Mama's men's team. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I signing myself up for?
So this was like a weekend ride, and this was
a Saturday.
And Alex had planned to start a women's team, or was okay,
right. So we go across the bridge. Alex says to me, so what's like your usual speed? And I'm like, probably 19 miles per hour, I think. And he says, oh, we'll cream that. I'm like, oh great, why am I here? But then I ended up learning so much on the ride from the other MoMA men who were riding out there with us that day. So once we got to Nyack, I said, Alex, so when are you starting this racing team? And he said, it started. You're it.
Yeah, okay.
I said, okay, great. I see how this is going. And he said, yeah, we just have to get like, 8 to 10 women to show up, and then I think we have a team. And I said, oh, okay. Well, that's not great, because I only know 2 women riders. And one lives in Vermont and the other lives in San Francisco. So I don't really know how that's going to work.
Problem there.
But he said, well, we'll have to see how it works. So I texted him later. I told him I'm committed to helping start this team. So I got on Strava, and I looked on this group called Prospective.
I think everybody knows that, but it's like an app where you can record your rides. And,
Right.
Sorry, I'm just. I try to sometimes like
give some background.
Give a little bit of background, but I think most everybody does know. So anyway,
So I figured, women who might be more interested in a racing team would be on Strava, and specifically I looked on Prospect Park Laps, because if you're just recording your commute on Strava, or just kind of recording your casual rides on Strava, maybe not so much. But if you're like actually doing laps in Prospect Park, maybe you actually would like to do
so you look for that segment that you can find, and then you see who's riding these laps on Prospect Park because of the GPS file and they're by computer and all that. And you were like, let's go down the list of women here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 2,000 cyclists in that group, but it's probably like 90% men, so I just kept scrolling.
Oh, you went to one of the groups. So there's a group there. Okay.
And then I looked until I saw a woman's name, and then I clicked on her profile. If she was public, I looked at her rides, and she'd been riding pretty consistently over the last 12 weeks. And if her, mileage for that year looks pretty strong, I said, okay, like maybe she's a good fit. So I would comment on their last ride and say, hey, if you want to join a racing team, DM me on Instagram. And I actually got a couple of people who responded from that.
Okay.
I'm surprised, because they showed up even for a ride.
So this is already like an evening of work at least that you put in there. Okay.
Right. And then we just started getting more momentum. Once people started joining, we were like, I have a friend.
Oh, great. Okay.
I also sent a post to the Veselka team, I think, on Instagram. They reposted, and then people wrote in from that. So after that, we somehow, since the last 5 weeks, I've spoken to 94 women.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know this number very precisely, so you have like a spreadsheet or something?
Yes. Okay. People have been asking me, how do you know all these riders' names and keep track and remember what their speed is generally? And I said, it's because I write it down. I write down the names and I take attendance.
Very good.
So yeah, we've had a pretty good conversion rate, so to speak, of people who have approached us and people who have said, I want to join the team.
Great.
But it's kind of fluid right now, because we don't necessarily know that everybody who says, like, I want to join the team is eventually going to say, yep, I'm going to now actually officially commit to the team and do all these different things. We're doing
you can't expect all 94 to be there at the end of next year. Yeah.
But even then, it's still a great crew of people to then, whittle down into a real racing team if that were to happen next year.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of it.
You should be, I think.
Yeah, I think now also with that many people, we have the opportunity to create a pace group for each rider that, there's enough people that they can actually have people to ride with at their skill level. So that's pretty exciting for us.
So I think, already bringing up, I think probably, bring something. I was going to say that make you talk a lot. So you're already bringing up one of the first challenges, I think, then I'm assuming you brought the group together at some point, or what was the group then, and you already kind of saying it's kind of snowballed and you have a bigger and bigger group, which is great, right? But one of the first challenges, it sounds like you identified, was that we have different ability levels or background levels, or people have been maybe riding 100 Prospect Park laps already, and other people have only been riding 2, right, or something like that. So that was one of the first challenges you encountered, I'm assuming, or how do you deal with that?
We found that as there's a very wide range of skill levels in the group. And so then to have one group and then have to weight people, and it just sort of, it made it difficult for everybody in the group to feel like they were getting the same benefit out of it. Also, nobody likes to be dropped. I mean, I know it's inevitable, but nobody likes to be dropped, and so you don't want to and you don't want to drop anybody who's new. So
especially if it's supposed to be kind of a beginning.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So now that we have more people, I want to make it so that it's anybody. Because I believe that if you ride enough and you keep going, you will eventually get better.
Yeah.
And so many people don't do that because they don't have people to ride with, or they don't know how to ride or where to ride. Getting across the George Washington Bridge is pretty intimidating if you don't.
It's far too, and it's not pleasant, I would say.
It's not
doing
pleasant.
that.
It's scary on that access ramp. People yell at you.
It's really narrow. Like, I'm afraid of heights, and I regularly have to tell myself, don't think about, don't look down, don't look down.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you get off the side of the bridge, you're like, okay, now where do I go? Where do I do?
Yeah.
If you don't know, like, oh, you go to Nyack. Oh, you just sort of be like, okay,
or you get spat out there, and you're like, this doesn't look anywhere like cycling friendly on the other side of the bridge, right? The first moment, at least. Yeah.
Exactly. So just to have people to ride with, I think, is a huge thing for many of these women. I want to make it really, back to those two things that we were talking about, where it's, there's so much information, and then also just getting out there and riding. I want to make a community, a supportive environment where they can actually learn that with people who are around their same level. We've heard from a lot of the riders in our group that they don't feel like they can become a serious cyclist. Yeah. It's not for them. And I want to show them that with time and enough reps, you can also get there.
Yeah. Get there, so they don't want to be serious cyclists. What does a serious cyclist constitute, I guess? Do you think racing is that serious cyclist, or a serious cyclist is riding, I don't know, 50 or 100 miles or something, or? Yeah,
that's a great question. It probably differs. The answer probably differs for each rider.
Right.
There are definitely a good group of women in the group who want to actually race.
Okay.
Who actually want to go out there and make themselves stronger, better, race.
Right.
And then there's a group of people who just want to get better.
And they want to ride with other people.
Yeah. And I want to make a space where all those opportunities are available to anyone. So
that's hard.
Exactly. But now that we've reached a group, I think there's that opportunity. So we're thinking about having almost 3 levels of membership. So either you're part of the public, or you're part of the club, or you're part of the team.
Okay, great.
And for the public, what we're thinking about doing is once a month host a public ride. We've had a lot of people write in and say, I'd love to join for a ride. I don't know if I want to join the team, but I'd love to join and just ride with other people.
Right.
So we're thinking about doing one public ride a month and have that be like either you can join for a team ride, a regular team ride, or you can, we'll do like a supported ride. We have our sponsors, maybe even yourself that would come and provide food for the ride, or do something like that, some sort of like destination trip. That's one level. Another level then is club. So club would be you're wearing the team kit, you're riding with this group, you're getting some level of training, coaching, or training plan maybe. Maybe you don't want to race, but you do want to get better. That's the club.
Right.
And then the racing team is if you're really, really into it, intense about it, you really want to be riding at a top level for you, whatever that means.
Right.
That's that team. And I'd love for it to be something where people can then graduate through the levels and almost like maybe you join for the public rides and you're like, I kind of want to do the club, and then you do the team, because that's how it was for me. Right? So, and then eventually like graduate into a different racing team if you wanted to, and then come back and mentor the new riders, and so sort of make space for a pipeline of riders coming into the city, coming into the peloton.
So you see this, first of all, that all sounds great, and I think we can see the energy that you have for the project, and but this has all happened over the last month, 5 weeks, 2, so it's been kind of a whirlwind, I'm sure, but it sounds like you really have a vision and a plan and a lot of ambition and a fantastic, large group of women on bikes who have different goals, as you said, but I think who are all hopefully happier on the bike as they come together, and I think that's great already. Where was I going to go with that?
Well, I'd love to make a point actually about what I mean when I talk about inclusivity in cycling. I think, we talked about in the earlier part of the discussion, we talked about how cycling is very expensive. I think on there's a couple levels, a couple different barriers, I guess, to cycling. Cycling is very expensive. It's also very intimidating, like emotionally intimidating. And it's also, I think, a very male-dominated sport. So I'm trying to sort of, get at all three of those things with this team. With it being so male-dominated, we are trying to run. Alex's idea originally was for a women's team, but as I've built out the team more, I thought a lot more about
Thank you.
wanting to make this inclusive of not just women, but also people who are non-binary, people who are gender non-conforming, people who are not necessarily cisgender. I'd love for all of those people to be able to feel like they have a place in cycling too. So that's why we ended up changing the name. Originally we called it Ostroy Racing. Now we're calling it Ostroy Racing Development, and then eventually,
you took I didn't even notice that you took the woman out of the title. Okay. Okay.
So that is to hopefully try to make it more welcoming to people who are not necessarily don't identify as a woman, but would like to be part of cycling.
Or maybe don't enjoy the male-dominated cycling team and atmosphere.
So to that end, we're trying to partner with, local ground, ground up kind of organizations, grassroots organizations that are focused on supporting LGBTQ, IA plus riders, things like that, into getting them into road cycling.
Are there? Do you have a couple on that you can name off the top of your head? Because I'm learning as well, always because I don't know everybody in the community, and I'm always looking for people to talk to as well. So who do you have?
So we've been talking to Nightcap Brooklyn. Nightcap, it's Night and then Cap stands for Cyclists Against Patriarchy.
Night.
Cap.
Spelled how night? There's lots of different ways to be.
And they've been writing for I think a couple of years maybe. I'm not sure, but they've really grown a lot during the pandemic. And they just do a regular Tuesday ride for anybody who is basically not a cisgender female. So we're partnering with them later this month.
Where do they ride out of? Sorry.
Out of Brooklyn.
Out of Brooklyn, okay. Great.
Usually Prospect Park, or I think Maria Hernandez Park near Bushwick.
Okay,
And the idea behind that was let's create a clinic where we can invite their riders and make it known that it's a specifically gender inclusive event. So we're gonna do like pins for pronouns. And have not cisgender males coaching the riders. That kind of thing.
So that means, so that is a group that is more about just riding a bike around the neighborhood or the park or something, and you would kind of be then providing the next step if they wanted to be more serious, as in like ride longer distances or ride faster or whatever it is.
There's actually a number of a number of groups that have popped up during the pandemic, especially with people riding bikes, that we've sort of then jumped on as an opportunity to then convert some of those riders into more serious cyclists, who are people who are riding more casually now, maybe just on their commuter bike, but then eventually converting them over to getting a road bike and maybe trying to race eventually down the line. So another example of a group that we've talked to a lot is Girls Bike NYC. They, I think, were started this summer as an offshoot of Girls Run NYC, and the idea was, let's get a bunch of women on bikes and just ride. But it's definitely more of a casual, social ride.
Right, which is a good entry point, right? And because honestly, just being on a bike can be intimidating in New York City sometimes, depending on where you ride, right? It's not. I mean, I grew up in mid-sized town in Germany. You grew up in mid-sized town in Indiana. Riding around those neighborhoods wasn't all that dangerous compared to here, right? So
I actually grew up in a suburb of Seattle.
Okay, sorry. There was an Indiana connection. I got excited about that because I have an Indiana connection.
Indiana, then moved to Seattle. Yes, but it is true. It's riding around a suburb, you just feel safer than you do riding around on these streets.
Right.
I think
if you can't tell, there's a bike lane right here between the cars and these. So
very narrow one, probably.
It's safe if you know what you're doing, I think, but you have to have some confidence.
Not everybody is around you is aware of this stuff. The other thing that made a big difference this past summer was the bike protests. With with George Floyd, and then the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, and all of the people who were getting on bikes to protest. Some people have actually bought bikes to go protest.
Oh wow, okay.
And so from my conversations that I've had so far, that's been a major entry point too for people getting more comfortable with their bike as more than just a commuter tool.
So 2020, what I'm hearing has been like really great, and I've heard that here and there, and you read a little bit about it. And I know the bike shops have all been selling bikes like crazy, and have been busy with repairs, and everybody's saying it. But you've seen that now too, talking to a lot of organizations. You yourself are maybe in some ways a product of this pandemic-induced increased bike riding, or people being on bikes, and but you're also, now that you're leading this new team, this new group, you see that that's happening everywhere, kind of across different organizations, and like you said, Girls Ride Bikes NYC, Girls Bike NYC, sorry. That's another one that just started this summer, and I think a lot of people are trying to pick up on that and not just let that momentum go to waste, kind of, because hopefully when the pandemic is over, the majority of these people stays on the bikes, right? And at least in some way. And like I think you said, the protest movements, I've seen a lot of bike rides related to that as well. So, and you feel like you can connect to that a lot.
For sure, because I think cycling is something that you can do at a more of a social distance. You know, you can definitely ride 6 feet apart, it's easier, and you can talk while you're exercising. It's a great form of that. I also think you can get out of the city easily on your bike, which is something I think a lot of people are looking for, especially when we were initially quarantining and stuck at home.
And avoiding the subway.
Exactly. So all of those things contributed, I think. There are a lot of people in the group that just started riding bikes this past year, so, which is also, I mean, part of my own imposter syndrome with starting the team is that, like, I've never raced, you know, I haven't been riding all that long, so I don't really know what I'm doing.
So how do you feel then? Because you got thrown into this role and have you feel probably responsible for all these 94 plus women and the success of this group now. Not to build up any pressure, but I think, like you said, when you just feel like you are yourself entering a world that you're still exploring yourself, right?
Yeah, right. Well, so that's, I think, actually been, it's been more good, I think, than bad. I think the bad is only on my side, where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to, feel very insecure about what I'm doing. But I think it's also meant that I reach out to people more and I say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I've leaned on a lot of people in the racing community to help me get to where this team is now. Whether that be leading rides, leading pace groups, coaching the team, talking about safety. I remember the first time Alex said, I have to ride with my Momo men's team today. You're going to do the safety talk, right? With the riders. And I was like, I'm giving the safety talk. I learned this maybe 2 weeks before they did. But as I've done this more, I think that's actually been a great thing, because it's meant that we have, connectivity to the rest of the teams in the CRCA, even beyond the CRCA, in the community overall. So Vasilka has been a particularly kind, Vasilka and Ostroy, they both have been really kind to us in terms of having riders come out to rides, lead rides. I think it's really great for our riders to be able to see the racers currently and say, okay, this is kind of aspirationally where I can get to. And it sort of brings that closer to home a little bit and says, look, they're not so far away from me. I could be there in a year, in 2 years. When you just see those people passing you in these super slim type kids out on the
looking all serious
with
the sunglasses, you can't tell. They all look like they're mean.
Exactly. But then once you're sitting there with them at Boxer Donuts or at Run School, you're like, oh, actually they're quite nice, and they all do other things, and they have a life outside of biking, but also biking is a great part of their life, and that could be me. So I think it's actually been very important for us to have that kind of linkage to the rest of the cycling community. And also, the cycling community, I think, the fact that it's welcomed me so quickly within a couple of weeks has been really encouraging for me. I feel like I've discovered a whole new world just by getting to know the people on these different teams.
I think you've been successful partially, or to a large part, because you yourself have been willing to go out there and be active and reach out to people, and I think that's a hurdle that not everybody. I think you're providing that and now have made that first step for other people who maybe aren't naturally inclined to do that necessarily. So I think that's great. And so a lot of people are profiting with you, I think, which is great. Let me ask one more question, and then I think we'll take a break, because you haven't been able to eat at all and I've been eating away. So you've mentioned this already. You see this. You've used the word pipeline. You have the word development in the name of the team. So you see this similar in a lot of ways, I think, to Alex Ostroy. I just want to make sure that people, when we say Alex, I just want to remind them of the name. He has a development team, what he calls a development team, which is one of the sub-teams of COCA, Team OMA, and then so you see this in a similar kind of way as a model that you want to help non-cisgender male riders to get into more of the sport of cycling and more of the competition aspect, maybe a little bit, or at least get closer to it, close enough that they can maybe try it out, think about it, and if they want to pursue, like you said, there are the more serious ones who already know I'm going to be racing, I want to be racing, then they can start with you, and then is that the model, or what is there anything that I'm missing?
Yeah, that's the model. I think it's really about, it's almost, I'm trying to make it more like a utility in a way for people to get into it and then sort of dip their toes into it a little bit and say, oh, this is something I want to try and I want to be part of this, and then decide if they want to really commit to this or not. I think like that kind of, it's almost like the try before you buy kind of model.
Yeah, try before you buy. Yeah, okay, I like that. Because it is a big commitment. Yeah,
but also because we've really leaned on the existing community of racers to help with the program. So it's almost, I feel like it's a little bit giving back to them in a way and saying like, look, we're going to groom these riders. Eventually, though, they're going to be too good for this team. We can't manage this big of a team and have new people come in. So the idea is like then graduate and then come back and help us alumni.
So you really thought about, in some ways, then, because you did have to look at, again, you were new, you didn't know the community maybe that well, and you feel like you had to navigate the space and figure out how does this group, this project fit in? Because there is, for better or worse, sometimes there's established clubs, right, that already do a thing, and that a lot of people then easily quickly gravitate to just because they already exist and they're big and they're known. And then sometimes I think it can be hard to carve out a space, but it sounds like you've done that.
Trying to.
Still in the works.
Yeah.
All right, we'll let you eat a little bit, but that's good for now.
Yeah.
We'll take a break and then more later. Thank you.